Hello everybody, welcome to the Abbots Address. Today is, Thursday, June 2nd or 3rd or 4th, something like that, 2016. And so I've got some announcements about upcoming activities, a word of praise for the Guardian Council, and then one kind of quick response to a question that came in. I've been doing some talks recently on the Mumonkan, the Gateless Gate, which is a classic series of koans in the Zen tradition. And the cases often hinge around the transmission of the Dharma from one generation to the next. Not always, but that's one of the things that can be there. And that was the case in case 22, which was what the topic was yesterday. So one of the folks who was watching that on the simulcast wrote in and said, hey, what is this transmission thing? How does that work? Is that a matter of information being passed on from one generation to the next? And if so, how is that decided? Is there some kind of a secret council or circle or something somewhere that decides who gets to know, or that kind of stuff? Or, what's the deal? So I thought I'd maybe respond to that a little bit before doing the announcement. So this thing about transmission is that it is not it's not an institutional thing. It's not like one has transmission from, at least in my experience, it's not something like you get a degree from the University of Toledo and the University of Toledo has the stamp on it and you're accredited by, your degree has got its weight because it's an accredited institution and like that. That would be an institutional credential. Transmission is a mentor, personal, apprentice kind of thing. So the only way that one can receive transmission is from someone who has already received transmission. And so the whole thing hinges around the personal student-teacher relationship. And I would strongly resist any impulse to amend that or make it into some kind of an institutional thing. And beyond that, it's not really about data going from point A to point B or information coming from person A to person B. It's much more a matter of having a person internally awaken to the truth of their nature under the guidance of their teacher, to the point where the teacher and the student have the same eye. They have the same experience, the same Dharma eye is what we say. So what's realized is something that's inherent and has always been there. So when I received transmission from my teacher, James Ford Roshi, I didn't get anything that I didn't have before I had ever heard of Zen or spiritual training or anything like that. But what's clear is that what was there, what is truth there, what is the reality of self, has been uncovered, explored, integrated, and is now a place that a person lives from. So it's not a matter of information, it's a matter of experience and integration of that experience in one's life. And when one has an awakening, when one integrates awakening in more and more subtle levels, it shows. And it's something that can be known and verified. And that's the basis of the transmission that goes on from generation to generation. At least that's how I would say it. So there's no institutional board that governs who I give transmission to or anything like that. It's a matter of my connecting with the student and feeling like it's true. And to be fair, it's not magic. It's not a silver bullet. It's not a. It can be regretted. It can be wrong. It can be. I mean, I've just known too many people that have full transmission to have any fallacies anymore about everyone who has transmission is this, incredible super being. It says something. It says something important. But beyond that, if you're looking at someone as a teacher, you'd want to have transmission to be there as a minimum. And then beyond that, I would look to see what that teacher's students are like and what that teacher's community is like. Are you seeing a community that's kind of a cult of personality? Are you seeing a community where people are aping the teacher's words and mannerisms all the time and seem scared when the teacher's around to be able to talk? I mean, there's always going to be some power differential whenever there's an assessment capacity. So that's one thing, but that's all it is. So so what I look for is that the transmission is there, and then that's a starting point. And frankly, there's a lot more people that have come to complete realization and full realization, that have completed their Zen training in so much as one can complete this thing, that do not have the particular qualities or inclination of a teacher. A teacher is a very specific kind of fate. And so one has to, usually transmission implies, if not requires, in fact it requires, I'll go so far as it requires to have this teacherly kind of thing to it, because someone can fully realize themselves and come to deep awakening and not necessarily be a person that's a great guide for others. Or there can be someone who comes to that level of depth in their practice, but they don't really have affinity for taking on the responsibility of holding the lineage and making sure, to the best of their ability, it gets transmitted and passed on to the next lineage. You see, that's a whole other level of stuff. So the main thing that any of us should be focusing on really is that our lives are living without fear and in compassion and wisdom, and that we realize who we are and what reality is and live in accord with it. And then there will be some folks that have the burden to carry the lineage and make sure it gets passed on. There'll be even more folks that will have a depth of understanding and participate in that teaching in a derivative way. So someone that is acknowledged to give, let's say, Dharma talks, or someone who at some point is able to do liturgical priestly functions or give beginning instruction. We have a lot of practice leaders right now in our community. Those folks are all participating in the teaching activities of the community, but none of those folks are sort of yoked with making sure the lineage continues on to the next generation. So transmission has not only to do with an individual person's internal experience and how they perceive the universe and themselves and stuff like that, but it also has to do with this taking on the responsibility of continuance of the tradition and into the generations ahead. So, a few thoughts on the subject of transmission. Now, the announcements. Firstly, I'd like to say that we've got we have a financial shortfall in our budget at this time. There's a certain deficit that the community has come up against, and the Leadership Council is doing a great job. They put together a really articulate explication of what's going on and what needs to be done. That was sent out as an email to everybody in the list yesterday, I think, and it was posted on the Temple Facebook page, the public one, and the closed conversation group as well. So I'd really just like to say thank you to the Leadership Council. I mean, these folks are doing an amazing job. No exaggeration, navigating this. When I reflect even briefly on where we were 5 years ago or 3 years ago to where we are now, we're in such an amazingly improved place, and yet we still have these things we need to work through. So please do your share to keep current on what the situation is with the temple. This stuff doesn't all just happen magically for free. There actually are costs involved. Even though we make no fees for temple activities for any temple member, we just try to include all activities in the annual budget and take everybody's annual contribution against the annual budget and make things work out so people can contribute according to their means. But still, there is rent that actually does seriously need to be paid, and lights that want electricity to turn on, and it's nice to have the simulcast, but the internet costs every month and stuff like that. So please help in as much as you can in that way. Now, activities, okay? There's a ton. There's a bunch of stuff coming up right now. The first thing is that Sunday, June 5th, which will be a week from this, which is this Sunday, actually, this Sunday. So if that's true, then today's date would be the 4th, 3rd, maybe today's the 2nd. I could do some math when desperately needed. Anyway, this Sunday at 2, after services, we're going to have a tent raising. You can see behind me the barn. We've got some Sangha tents that go up right in front of that barn, and that's where we're going to have a lot of activities over the summer, including the culminating session that happens, and the sewing retreat, and vows, and all this stuff. So we'll be doing a tent dough raising Sunday at 2. Come out and help. We'll also, with Shoan, who's an environmental scientist, she'll be out here with a crew helping to do some stuff about removing some non-indigenous species that are here in the farm. We're trying more and more all the time to make this a nature conservancy for the rare species that are indigenous to the area. Please come and participate. Bring work clothes, bring shears and stuff. Shoan says that would be helpful, and bring some attitude. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time. Then the teaching retreat, which is new for our community, will start Monday with an opening ceremony from 6 to 8 Monday evening, and then Tuesday through Saturday, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, was going to all be these block days of teachings. These are designed to be modular. If you can't do the whole thing, then you can do chunks of the thing and it'll work out just fine. Ideally, do all of it. But the schedule will be such that the morning block will be from 9 till noon, then there'll be a lunch break, and then the afternoon block will be from 2:30 to 5. And that's going to happen Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The lunch is going to be organized as a fundraiser so that people will take what they would pay for a lunch out somewhere, whatever that might be, and contribute it to the temple. And the temple's going to try to provide some vegan, nice, healthy kind of lunch stuff that we can all enjoy together, and hopefully do a little fundraising for the temple in that way, as well as have some community time. Then it'll conclude with the closing ceremony on the Sunday service, which is at its normal time at 11. Okay. The only addendum to that is the Wednesday night. We'll have regular services Wednesday evening of the teaching retreat night, but it'll going to focus on Doksan. So hopefully both Doan, Osho, and myself will both have our Doksan lines up and running, and we can do some of that work. The text for the teaching retreat is Shantideva's Way of the Bodhisattva, which basically goes through an in-depth look at the paramitas, things like generosity and patience and energy and so on. It's a deep text. It's a required text in this community for Jukai formation, and that's the one that we've chosen for our inaugural teachings retreat to be the center of our inquiry together. So you don't need the text to participate, but that's what it is. Yeah, and then I guess the next thing, the final thing, is that we're going to have a Sangha party. Hello? We're going to have a Sangha party, the summer party here at the Abbotsy, Black Oak Farm, on Friday, June 10th. And that's in the teaching retreat week, and that's going to start at 7. So that'll be fun here. We're going to have a bonfire and have some nice food and do stuff. So the Sangha summer party, Friday, June 10th at 7. Okay, thank you everybody for your practice. Thank you for keeping in touch with these Abbots addresses, and I'll see you in the Zendo.